On this episode of Imagine, Create, Inspire.
If I can use one word of profanity in our podcast, that was an oh shit moment for your boy. Yeah. I'm like, hang on a minute. This cannot happen tomorrow night under any circumstances. This cannot happen.
You are listening to Imagine, Create, Inspire, the podcast. Join host Bruce Andrews in conversations with creatives. Every artist has a story, and the struggle is real to stay inspired and in the flow. Join in the conversation by leaving us your comments, and thanks for listening.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, y'all. Imagine, Create, and Inspire. 3 words in a very deliberate sequential order, one that leads to the other. Imagination leads to creation. Creation leads to inspiration. And inspiration, when you properly apply it, produces hope. And hope is a commodity, y'all. Hope is fuel for the human soul, and that's why it's important to access your imagination. And I love talking to artists. And today, I'm giddy as a schoolgirl. I can't believe that I get to talk to Damon Johnson for more than 5 minutes, man. So, I mean, we're talking about names like Alice Cooper, Damn Yankees, Jeff Beck, Steven Tyler. I mean, the name goes on and on. The names go on and on. And most recently, I'll just introduce the podcast this way. Most recently, I was up at my daughter's. We were talking earlier, Damon, about the importance of family and how cool it is to hang out with family and how vested we both are in it. And so I was up there for New Year's Eve, and my son-in-law, who's in his 30s, was watching TV, and he said, "Hey," he hollered at me. I didn't even know that there was a Nashville New Year's Eve thing on. So he hollers at me and says, "Hey, don't you know this guy?" And there was Damon Johnson like a damn boss walking out on that runway, just ruling, dude. Thank you for taking out some time to talk today, dude.
It's my pleasure, Bruce. No question, man, New Year's Eve was super exciting. And you can imagine I've heard similar stories to that, because it's not like, beyond a couple of social media posts, there's no way to let people know what's up. And, everybody's busy and got so much going on. But I think I was unprepared for the measurement of, New Year's Eve. That's kind of what everybody does. They're home on New Year's Eve. They got the TV on, maybe having some food or a glass of champagne. You got nothing else to do but watch TV and ring in the new year.
That's right, man.
There was a ton of people like, wait, what? Is that Damon? So fun, man. So fun. It was great to be a part of it. And, the aftermath has been even more fun. It's been great to connect with family and friends that have reached out and just said, wow, it was awesome.
In this new age we're in, where you're only measured by the content that you put out, that kind of thing. I mean, every time you do something like that, you get a boost, don't you? In terms of does it filter down to your recognition, aka downloads and that kind of thing?
You know what, Bruce? That's a great question. I do think that there's no question you see a lot of traffic on your social media, and you and I've discussed it before. Social media in some ways is all we have anymore. It's all we have. I've joked around about this as I've put out my last couple of solo records. It's like, if somebody gave me $100,000 to promote my new album, I wouldn't even know where to spend that money. Like, who are you going to write that check to? Here's $100,000. Educate the world that Damon Johnson has a new record out. It's kind of like a tree falling in the forest. Does it really make a sound?
Yeah.
Like, we may never know, but I guess, Bruce, certainly the last 7 or 8 years, I do feel like it's been, as my dad says, one good lick after another. But they've all been rooted in just, my passion for music is unwavering. I really feel like my work ethic has been fairly consistent. And when any time someone asks me, a young musician or even a parent, that has a kid that's really interested in music, they're like, well, what advice do you have? I certainly understand them asking someone like me that question. And it's always that. If they're passionate about the music and they are unafraid of hard work, you can do this for the rest of your life. But those two things can never waver. I mean, not a little bit. You can never take your foot off the gas. And so I do feel like at this moment, there is some sort of, I don't know, some zenith in the universe that has just really been, there's been some results. And yeah, some of it has been good fortune, keeping in touch with people over the decades and relationships and that kind of thing. But no question, man, the hard work and the love of music has yielded some opportunity. Like I'm playing guitar in Lynyrd Skynyrd on CBS at midnight on New Year's Eve. Come on, man. You can't write that on a piece of paper and go, I'm going to go do that. Let me take that. That's my goal. Let me take some steps to make that happen. You're not going to make that happen. It's just how things have turned out, man. I'm grateful.
Yeah, man. And I guess that, there's a lot of implicit negatives in not being 25 anymore. That kind of thing. It hurts a little more to get up and that sort of thing. But, maybe the one thing that's kind of an advantage is you do something like that, do you feel more present in the moment? Like you can totally soak it up. The fact you're up there doing it. So you're living your dream, literally. You find that you're more present in doing it. Like if you think back to the Brother Kane days and all that stuff, I would only imagine that you feel like, damn, it just blew by me. It's like, kind of did that happen? But this new era that you're in with your talent and the way you've progressed. I mean, I feel like maybe you can oddly enjoy it more. Am I right?
100%, Bruce. You're absolutely on target with that. Fully present is a term that we use a lot here at the house, particularly my wife, Linda, and I. And I think that's really the goal right now. No question, looking back over, a 35-year career, there's all kind of things I would have done different, given the chance. But that is the goal right now, is to be fully present. That is the great thing, I guess, about the maturity and easing into being older age, is that you're a lot more comfortable. I feel more comfortable in my own skin. I'm okay with things moving slower so that I can kind of go, wow, this is great. Wow, this band sounds great. Wow, look at this audience. Look at their enthusiasm for being here in this moment, whether it is at a Skynyrd show or if it's at a Brother Kane show or a solo acoustic show. It's my favorite thing, Bruce, about being this age and, just all the things that are happening. It's always fun to talk about it. And, once we're finished talking about it, I'll still go upstairs and make a cup of coffee and go, wow, I can't believe all this is happening.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite sayings is it's old Zig Ziglar saying. It says that success is not a destination; it is the progressive realization of a worthwhile dream. And I think you're the embodiment of that. It's like one door leads to another door and another door, and you or as my dad used to say, God opens doors, but He don't kick your ass through them. So it's like when that door opens, it's a mystery. There's nothing there, but it's unseen territory. I mean, like when you got the call, maybe you can recount this story as an example. When you got the call to go out and play with Steven Tyler, and I mean, you didn't expect that, but one door led to another door, led to another door, led to that door, and then you get this phone call.
Yeah. For sure. Really most all of these opportunities, Bruce, I can point a finger at every one of them, and there's a connection to some other musician friend in my life that thought of me when there was an opening or a need for something. They thought of me and they reached out, said, hey, we're working on this. Marty Fredrickson has written with Aerosmith for 25 years now. Steven had called him. He's going to play in Las Vegas. He needed Marty to put a band together. Well, Marty's like, well, I need to get some of the best guys that I know, that I've worked with, that I can count on, that I know they're going to put in the time and the preparation. So I was thrilled that he called me, because at that time, Marty was in Los Angeles. His Rolodex is filled with guys that he could have called. But, we'd been writing songs together and been friends for 20 years. So it made a lot of sense that he would call me. I was just grateful my calendar was open. And, same with Alice Cooper. I wouldn't have gotten the Alice Cooper phone call had it not been for my old friend, Eric Dover. From Jasper, Alabama.
Wow.
Eric had been living on the West Coast, and he was playing in Alex's band and was getting ready to move on and do some other things. And he recommended that they give me a look, let me come in and audition. And there's no Alice Cooper for Damon Johnson without Eric Dover. There's no Steven Tyler for me without Marty Fredrickson. I wouldn't be playing guitar in Lynyrd Skynyrd if it weren't for one Ricky Medlock, who was also really just a hero of mine, another guitar hero, somebody I had seen in concert 2 or 3 times when he was in Blackfoot. Brother Kane opened for Blackfoot, Bruce, in 1993. It was one of the first support gigs that we ever got. We did 2 shows in Texas right after Got No Shame had just started to get some traction at radio. And long story short, I made it a point to introduce myself to Ricky that night and tell him what a fan I was. And he was just so gracious, and he could tell I was genuine. He came early to listen to Brother Kane. He loved the band. He loved Got No Shame. The end of the night, he comes over and hands me a folded up piece of paper. He said, here, Damon, here's my number. I want you to keep in touch. And it's so funny looking back on that story, Bruce, because I kept that piece of paper at my bedside table for about 6 months. I was too scared to. I was too afraid to call him. I'm like, man, Ricky Medlock's he's a rock star. He don't want to talk to me. So sure enough, man, I got up the nerve to call him when we were home for a stretch, and he answered the phone. I said, hey, Ricky, this is Damon Johnson from Brother Kane. I don't know if you remember me. He's like, boy, what took you so damn long? I've been waiting on you to call.
That's awesome.
So, man, that started a 30-year friendship, a real, genuine friendship. We kept in touch. 3 years later, he got the call to stand in the position Alan Collins stood in Skynyrd, and play all those amazing parts. And the very next time Skynyrd came through Birmingham, I went down to see Ricky. He invited me down, and man, we've written songs together. He always wanted to know what I was doing. He wanted to hear whatever new music I was putting out. We kept in touch through it all. So, when you consider that, there's no question that 3 years ago, when Skynyrd needed somebody to come in and fill in for Gary Rosington at that time, it's crazy. Yes, I'm surprised, all of that. But when you step back from it, as it relates to what we've been talking about, Bruce, it totally made sense that Ricky Medlock and Johnny Van Zandt would go down their list of guys, because it's not a long list. There's not a long list of guys that are experienced, that have the resume, that have the confidence to step up in a moment where they need to bring in somebody off the bench that can still shoot a 3-pointer at the buzzer. There's just not a lot. There's not a lot of those guys, man. So once I got over the initial shock of like, wow, I didn't see this coming, Well, then you got to turn on your professional, put on that hat, turn on that light and go, all right, let's get down to business.
Project some confidence.
Let's get some confidence. So I sat right here. This is my little office, and I sat in this chair, and I had the set list on the wall, and I had guitars and different tunings, and I just started running them because I knew there's only been one person that has stood at stage left on lead guitar in Lynyrd Skynyrd for 50 years. Damn. And that was Gary Rosington. So I knew there was going to be a bright light on me, not just from the band, but from the audience, from their management. So yes, I've known those songs my whole life, but I've never worked harder to prepare. Listening to every version, the live album, the studio versions.
Was it particularly dicey with it being Skynyrd, knowing that improvisation is not their thing? It's like it's going to be a more or less note for note replication of those great phrases that were played by Gary. Was that more intimidating or more homework?
I think that was another part of why Ricky had the confidence to bring my name up to Johnny and to Gary. Gary, I know Gary. We, Brother Kane opened for Skynyrd back in the day. So when Ricky went to Gary and said, "Hey, we're going to call Damon Johnson from Brother Kane," immediately Gary knew who I was. I think, particularly going through the Thin Lizzy experience, Bruce. When I joined Thin Lizzy, there was a commitment to really trying to replicate those parts note for note. And I kind of come to that as a fan, not as a musician or a guitar player, just as a fan.
Right.
If I'm going to see Thin Lizzy in 2011 and there's some new guy standing on, the left side of the stage playing those Brian Robertson parts, Gary Moore parts, Snowy White parts, that guy better play that stuff note for note. I don't want to hear his interpretation of these songs that Phil Lynott wrote. These incredible lyrics, these incredible stories, these great riffs. No, I'm not interested in this guy's technical panache. And watch. This is what I would have played on Jailbreak in 1976.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Yeah.
So, for me to get that experience and to get that appreciation, most importantly, Bruce, from the fans, immediately, the fans were like, thank you for putting in the time. That's just my passion for that music, man. Yes, I know those songs. I've known them my whole life. Then you got to get into the nuance, the deep weeds of like, hey man, where on the neck is he playing this to where he can transition from this lick down to this lick? Ricky Medlock knew I had been through that. So that first phone call from Johnny, he's like, buddy, I hate to ask you to do this, but we need you to learn those parts, note for note. I said, Johnny, I wouldn't have it any other way, and neither would the fans. So I don't know, maybe instinctively Ricky knew that's exactly how I would treat it. So yeah, man, the experience, the professionalism, the confidence, all of that. Yeah, man, I've got all of that, and I've earned it. I've put in the time. I've put in my 10,000, my 20,000 hours. I've earned all that, but I am still immensely grateful to my old friend Ricky that he would think of me in that moment, because he's like Marty Fredrickson. He knows 100 guitar players, 200 guitar players. There's a lot of guys that'll play the right notes, but I've always felt like they're, whether it's Scott Gorham and Thin Lizzy or Ricky and Johnny and Gary and Skynyrd, they're not going to find someone that cares more than me. They're not going to find somebody that's more passionate, deeply passionate. That music, those two bands, that music changed my life. Bruce. Changed my life. There is no Brother Kane without Damon Johnson listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd and Thin Lizzy in his bedroom as a kid, studying it, dissecting it like a football coach, like a defensive coordinator, man. He is dissecting, you know.
Yeah.
So
man.
it's yeah, man. Yeah.
You to the person, you probably don't want to hear this. You're so humble, but to the person that I meet that's met you, whether they're the guitar tech or somebody in the audience or somebody that's playing with you, they always say, not only are you a beast, but they always comment that you're humble and kind all the time, man. So
Wow.
I guess one thing I wonder about, because I think I saw you, the very first time I saw you was at Airwave Studio cutting a track. And I was down there for some other business. I think it was a child that you were cutting this track.
Wow.
And so I forget who was running the board. You probably remember. But in any event,
Probably Lee Bargeron.
I bet you're right. I just saw Alice last week, by the way. So anyway,
awesome.
I think he said, "Hey, have you ever heard this guy Damon Johnson play?" So I said, "No." He said, "You might want to stick around." So I had my little daughter with me, who's now 40. She was with me. She was a little girl. She'd come down there with me, and so we stood in the room while you cut this just fiery guitar solo, just awesome, killer. And so anyway, and you were like, I guess what I'm trying to say is your persona, your appearance. I mean, you had on like 4 or 5 bandanas on your leg, like we used to all wear, and you had some bangle bracelets on, and you were the epitome of a rock star. And so I didn't introduce myself that day, and so I guess where I'm leading this question I got for you, I think when you started learning your chops like that, you're coming up in your 20s or whatever, it's hard not to feel like you're on top of the mountain, or for lack of another way to put it, I'm the shit, that kind of thing. And so at what point do you feel like over the course of, is there a certain band you felt like, man, I'm more of a student than I am a master, that kind of thing? Because that's the way you impress me. You're like, even though you are the master of your own domain, when you hit that fretboard, you're the forever student. There's no doubt in my mind. So it's like, but you haven't always been that way, right?
What an incredible question, Bruce Andrews. I've done a ton of interviews, man, especially the last 20 years, and no one's ever asked me that. And that is an amazing question. And I'm grateful for that, especially coming from you, who I know and love and respect. I honestly feel like that once I got out of my first couple of garage bands, just high school buddies, once I got out of those bands, pretty much every band I was in between 1985 and when I started what became Brother Kane in 1990, that 5-year period, Bruce, every band I was in, I felt like the low man on the totem pole, experience-wise, even my ability. There were a couple of amazing. I could get in the deep weeds on this, man, and I don't want to do that and take up a bunch of time. But there were a couple bands. I grew up in Monroeville, Alabama, down kind of halfway between Montgomery and Mobile. That's where I went to grade school. And I had my first garage band was there. When I started the 10th grade, I moved up to Geraldine in DeKalb County. Immediately, as soon as I could meet some guys that could play, I put another band together. And we were all about the same level. But in junior college, I was going to Sneed State Junior College, and I had the opportunity to become the guitar player in a house band. Man, all great players. Older guy, everybody was older than me. That was a crash course in multiple genres of music. I was still kind of the Southern rock heavy metal kid, Skynyrd on one end, and then like Van Halen and Ozzy and Judas Priest and all that on the other. These guys got me listening to everything from Todd Rundgren to Little Feat to Motown to great pop, pop bands, great pop songwriters, man. Bryan Adams and Journey and, whatever. I was just, they opened my eyes. But the first band that asked me to join, it was a combination of, wow, I must be pretty good. And also, I am totally in over my head with these musicians.
That's the balance.
That would that would definitely be Split the Dark. Mark Phillips, Tommy Carlton, Eddie Usher. When those guys asked me to join their band in 1987, I was still living in Gunnersville at the time, and I've said it before, I wouldn't have been more excited if David Bowie had called my apartment. I was just, because I knew about Hotel, I knew about Split the Dark, I had seen them play at a couple of like college fraternities after an Auburn football game, and I was just like blown away at their level of musicianship, the songs that they were covering, and most importantly, Bruce, they were writing their own songs. I didn't know anybody that wrote their own songs. So that was huge for me. And then in succession, Split the Dark, that led to Witness. That was a band out of Atlanta that had a record deal, that had a single on the radio. They needed a fire and brimstone hot shot, with a Floyd Rose whammy bar to come in and play those songs. And then the other really essential experience, similar to Split the Dark, was a band out of Memphis called the Delta Rebels. The Delta Rebels, the leader of that band, the lead singer, was my friend R.T. Scott, who I'd never met until I heard through a mutual friend that they needed a guitar player. But what I wasn't prepared for, Bruce, was the other guitar player in this band was the late, great Eddie Shaver.
Wow.
Eddie Shaver is the son of Texas outlaw legend songwriter Billy Joe Shaver, who had written all those songs for Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, and just kind of a cult hero. I wasn't familiar really with Billy Joe's work at that time, but I became familiar. But Eddie Shaver was, in my humble opinion, one of the top 5 guitar players of all time to come out of the state of Texas. Right. And Stevie Ray Vaughan knew who he was. Billy Gibbons knew who he was. The list goes on and on. So how incredible for this Eddie Van Halen perm in my hair, whammy bar, all these foot pedals, all this twirly whirly nonsense to wind up in a rehearsal space with Eddie Shaver on a Stratocaster plugged straight into an amp. That's it.
Yeah.
And I have thanked the gods ever since that I had the humility and the awareness to recognize in that moment of that first rehearsal, instead of getting jealous or frustrated, no. I'm so grateful, guys, that I was able to recognize, oh, wow, this is a biblical moment for me. I am getting an education that you cannot purchase. You cannot go to any school. You cannot hang out with anybody.
Yeah.
And get the education like I'm getting right now. And, thankfully Eddie was amazing. We hit it off like 2 peas in the pod. He was all blown away with all my twirly whirly. And I'm like, bro, forget that. Please teach me how to get that guitar tone and how to play with that ferociousness and have that confidence, man, to just lean into it. Game changer, Bruce. Game changer. Had I not been in Split the Dark and in the Delta Rebels with Eddie Shaver and R.T. Scott, I'm sorry, but I'm still playing covers somewhere on Highway 280 right now, playing cover songs. Maybe I'm working at I don't know, Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville. Maybe I stayed in school and got my degree. There, none of the other stuff that came afterwards would have happened without those two moments where I'm the low man on the totem pole, and I knew it, and maybe that's the difference, man. Is my parents had taught me about hard work, but also, paying attention. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And game changer, man. Those were game changing experiences for me at still a really young age.
Yeah, don't miss it. That's an amazing thing about you. I mean, and when you do that, when all that aggregate experience comes into true human chemistry and playing, I'll go back to New Year's Eve again. I mean, you can't just take two guys and audition them and do what you and Ricky were doing on the walking the plank that night. I mean, in that scenario. I mean, if folks didn't see it, I mean, it was like, I'm amused at that these days in that, people have this impression that they can get all the entertainment they want, from YouTube or whatever, and don't ever have to have a live experience. But, when that kind of human chemistry manifests in music and all those people are out there back to back in the cold like they were on New Year's Eve, it's just an amazing observation, and talking about that particular one, I mean, I did watch back the recording the next morning of the whole thing, and all these great, huge country artists were up there and all that sort of thing, and they're all great. But I mean, hands down, the biggest human reaction was when Skynyrd hit the stage. I mean, and when you guys walked out, to play your pieces or your featured parts, solos and whatnot, I mean, you could just feel the energy, dude. And I sometimes I think all this stuff we're talking about, this aggregate experience, is sort of manifest in that big ball of energy. It's like you can't, because I think people look at that and they go, man, I want to be that. How can I be the boss walking out there 10 feet tall, whipping that guitar? How can I be that boss? You know what? I don't know that you can replicate that human energy without that aggregate experience. I mean, and you've had a lot of those moments lately. Is there anyone maybe that I didn't see that, when you were playing, we didn't get to see a lot of those live shows in Europe when you were the Black Star Riders and all that sort of thing. I mean, what was it like there, man? Is it more, like they say, more rock-friendly territory kind of thing for live shows?
Well, I mean, you covered a couple big things right there. I'll answer the second. I'll address the second thing first. Yeah, there's no question, man. There is a different community of rock support in Europe. There's still a bigger print media over there. There's magazines, there's even television network coverage of music in a way over there, whether it's like the BBC in the UK or German television up in Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, Finland. Rock music is still not just promoted and marketed, but it's supported by the media, the fans certainly, but also the media. It's not as much that here in the U.S. for whatever reason. But I definitely feel like that when I joined Lizzie in 2011, and then of course that morphed into simultaneously the Black Star Writer stuff. It really opened my eyes to the fact that my experience as a guitar player and then later as a songwriter, that it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not too old. I'm not aged out of this. That was one of the things, man, at the end of Brother Kane, Bruce, in 1999. I was 35, 36. And everything in how rock was uh, you know, promoted, marketed, signed, invested in. It was still all about youth. And I absolutely thought, well, I had a great run. We got a good shot. We did some good stuff. Had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. All right, well, I guess it's time they're going to put me out to pasture. I did, I did a good job. Had fun. Now I got to go see what's next. Really incredible, man, to first play those festivals in Europe with Alice Cooper, but then to go back over there with Lizzie and Black Star Riders. And Black Star Riders, we were a real band, a new band, making records, signed to a good label, good marketing, good promotion. It felt very similar to some of the stuff I'd had with Brother Kane. Mm-hmm. So that was eye-opening. And I do think it prepared me for the solo records I've put out in the last 6-7 years, certainly the Skynyrd situation. If I can, I wanted to go back just a little. You were talking about the New Year's Eve thing. And
yeah, I hit you with the double barrel that time. Sorry about that, man.
No, it's fine. Bruce. You and I are old friends, and we've had so many great conversations about art and performance and just working as a working musician, a working artist. One of the things I'm super grateful for, buddy, was the rehearsal. We had a dress rehearsal on December the 30th on the stage we were going to be on. And thank goodness it was as cold that afternoon as it ultimately was the next night for New Year's Eve. Bruce, we were freezing. I was freezing. It was probably about 31 degrees, maybe 31, 32, 33. And I'm just up there, I'm layered up, long johns underneath my black jeans, whatever. But man, we started running those songs and like, man, this is cold. I'm going to have to be rubbing my hands or, stick them in my coat pocket in between the commercials or whatever. Oh man, thank goodness that producer said, all right, guys, let's also do a test run. We had just done Simple Man. We did Sweet Home Alabama. He goes, we need to run Freebird so we can check the timing. So, man, I get my SG. It's set up just like Gary's. My tech hands me the slide. I walk over there to start playing that legendary melody that starts that song. And Bruce, my hands are like this. I am so cold.
Wow.
My hands are cold. The guitar is cold. That slide is cold. I couldn't hold it still. And that was, if I can use one word of profanity in our podcast, that was an oh shit moment for your boy. Yeah. I'm like, hang on a minute. This cannot happen tomorrow night under any circumstances. This cannot happen. So from that moment on, I set about preparing for the cold, and I'll condense it into a tight little ball. But man, I got what they call the hobo gloves, those wool gloves with the fingers cut out. I got some of those little rectangle, those warmers. I don't know what the chemistry is in it, man, but you open that thing up and shake it and it warms up. Bruce, I had one tucked in the back of that glove on both hands. I had two giant ones in my peacoat pocket.
Yeah.
And I also took that glass slide and it lived in that coat pocket.
Oh, sweet.
From the time I hit the stage to start that show. So if you have that thing recorded,
I do.
If you have it recorded, you should go back and look at the moment. That beautiful piano intro, the drum crescendo, and boom, we drop the one, and I play that first line. You can just see the blood run back into my face. It's like when you hit
it's
He's like, thank you to, man. I just felt like Gary was watching over me, man. You know, he's like, listen, boy,
Don't you miss that note.
This is your Super Bowl right now. This is your Super Bowl, Damon. You are wide open. We're throwing a 60-yard bomb. There's no defenders around you. All you got to do is catch the ball and run it into the end zone.
No second take.
I don't know if I'm going to share that story with too many people, but I'm telling it to Bruce Andrews.
That's so funny, man. I mean, I'm going to rewatch that if Corey's listening with my son-in-law, and he was commenting on that solo. So
Bruce,
I think we commented on your gloves too, and I said, well, he's just cool like that. I didn't know it was actually not cool. It was cold. Yeah.
No, listen, man. Trust me. The people in my inner circle, like you are. But my dad, my mom, my buddies, all the Brother Kane guys, I let them know, like, guys, I was about to soil my leather pants, man. I was so, like, no. This
I'd be like, hey, this is Warren Starr. We don't talk to you.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, there wasn't enough pressure. It's New Year's Eve. It's on CBS. It's at midnight. Here's another thing you need to know, Bruce. Lynyrd Skynyrd, the band, in 50 years, had never performed Freebird live on television ever before. Anywhere, ever.
I had no idea.
They've done Alabama and Simple Man and Three Steps and all kind of other songs. But, Freebird is just too epic. It's too long, for one thing.
Yeah.
It's too long. It's hard to get that. And that's another thing, man. Talk about relationships and timing and things coming together. Skynyrd's manager, Ross Schilling, what an incredible manager, this guy. He and the producer of the show have been friends for a long, long time. So when we get back on the road in March, I want to know the whole story just out of curiosity. But essentially this producer called Ross and said, hey, man, we're doing New Year's Eve in Nashville. We're doing a bunch of modern country acts. Any chance we could get Skynyrd on there? Had it not been for that guy's interest in doing it, and then Ross having the vision also and the confidence to go at, oh, yeah, totally, we can do this. We'll make this happen. You can't, Bruce, you can't write a check and get the kind of promotion that Lynyrd Skynyrd got on New Year's Eve, 2024, 2020, whatever you call it. You just can't buy that kind of footprint to promote your band and let people see what's going on. So it was a multitude of things that came together for that to happen. But I'm so, so grateful, man, that, I got to be a part of it. Certainly proud of myself, very proud of the band that we delivered, man. Everybody played great. Johnny sang out of his shoes, man. He sang so great.
Yeah.
And it was just a team. It was a definite team effort. It definitely felt like the Super Bowl, brother. No doubt about it.
That's beautiful. Well, it was, man. You were Isaiah Bond in the end zone on 4th and 30. It was a long shot to the corner, and you did it. It was amazing. Roll Tide, everybody. Or War Eagle.
Listen, I'll tell you this, man. As you know me, lifelong Auburn fan.
Yeah.
Lifelong Auburn fan. We had just driven home from Michigan for Thanksgiving, and I'd been listening to that game on the radio. We got home just in time for me to see like the last 10 minutes. I had never thought Auburn could win that game. It never crossed my mind.
But they were.
Until I'm like, okay, wow. Didn't see this coming. We literally have a chance to pull this off. 4th and 30. And, man, when that, like, all that stuff happened in slow motion. It's just like, dude, when that kid caught that ball, I just stood up and I turned off the TV and I went, that's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen in my life. Look, us Auburn fans, we've got the kick six for the rest of our life. that we have that till eternity, and probably for whatever years I have remaining on the planet, Bruce, that's always going to be on ESPN as the greatest college football play of all time.
Every time you see it, just to soothe your conscience, I hope you think, well, that's like my slide lick on New Year's Eve.
But my point is, that quarterback, sorry I don't know their names because I'm an Auburn fan, that quarterback made the throw of his life. That kid made the catch of his life. Mm-hmm. They were both perfectly executed. Man, you talk about preparation. You talk about confidence. You talk about belief in your teammates, belief in the play call. In that arena, in that setting, the Iron Bowl, at Auburn.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm kidding, but I'm not. I mean, that is tantamount or comparable to your situation with your cold hands and wanting to pull off all that, your preparation and all the aggregated prep that led up to that, you overcame in the moment. So it's like, and with all the people there and the one chance, no second take and all that sort of thing, it is sort of remarkable, and you'll always be able to look back at that and go, man, that was my moment, More to come.
Well, Bruce, thank you. Thank you for saying that, buddy. That was beautifully articulated. And I feel that. I do feel that. And yeah, man, I don't know. I would have predicted all my career highlights had already been done, experienced and logged into my mental history book and like, oh yeah, that was New Year's Eve 2024, New Year's Eve 2023 into 24. Easily, man, in the top 3 of my whole life.
It's so huge, dude.
Yeah, it was big. It was big.
Look, comment on, if you can, because I think, you would have every right to, as a veteran, literally, of the industry, you'd have every right to sort of lament the fact, all this, they're streaming. I don't make any money off of streams, and we're making pennies off of new music, and all that's elementally true. But I mean, the people that have gone, well, this is the way it is, so I'm going to play that field, have I guess, for lack of a better term, overcome or overcoming. And you're one of those people. I mean, what was your mental process wading through that morass of change?
Man, I've got a circle of industry friends, guys that, whereas I've pursued the musical player artist side, they've pursued the business side. They're either in management or they're in marketing and promotion. And, I'm grateful for those friendships. And, I remember some of the conversations I had way back. You may remember the year, when our boy introduced the whole Napster thing and, stealing music and all the fallout from that. I had a couple of those guys early on to say, hey, buddy, this is the future. There is no stopping this. And, they predicted exactly what happened, that the major labels pretty much all fell away. All those famous label heads, the Tommy Mottolas and Clive Davises and all that had made a fortune 1,000 times over. Those guys were out of a job. And so I just think because of that, those conversations and just, watching not just the big artists and big bands, but even the little guys like me operating independently, making their own CDs and, selling them out of the backpack at the Shelby County Arts Council, doing those gigs. It's like, no, look, man, that's the big time music business stuff. There's still hard work that you can do. Roll up your sleeves, pick up a hammer, and start and keep driving nails. I can't control that stuff, man. I can't change that. It just is what it is. So I felt like I embraced it early on, Bruce. Early on. The other thing is I never made any money off record sales to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like if I have friends in other bands that they sold millions of records, and they did do pretty good. And they don't make money on that music much anymore. But you just gotta decide, what matters. And I don't know. That's the good news for the kids, the young artists that want to play, they want to write, they got something to say, they got a great band, they got a vision. There's still a path, man. It's still out there. I'm grateful I don't have to start. I'm grateful I'm not 22 right now. I really am, man. It's got to be tough, but there is a path. Someone is doing it. So there are kids doing it, and
that whole idea.
I don't know.
That whole idea of 1,000 true fans, that Kevin Kelly concept that he espoused. I think it was initially in Wired magazine. Like, used to be you'd have to be famous to get across or sell a lot of music. But I mean, you really don't have to be famous. You have to have. He makes the case, if you had 1,000 people dedicated to your artistry that were willing to spend $100 a month with you, then that's income. And that's actually a doable concept via internet platforms that did not exist 20 years ago. So, I mean, there, like you said, there's a pathway, and you got to find it.
Amen, brother. Well said. Yeah, I'm excited, to stay in that lane as well. Lynyrd Skynyrd takes up about, I don't know. Well, let me do the math on that right quick. They're going to probably take up about 20 of my weekends over the year. So that's easy math, right? That leaves you almost 2/3 of the rest of the year to do other stuff, man. And so I'm not taking my foot off the gas of continuing to write, to record, to collaborate. It's just too fun, Bruce. It's so fun. It's so fulfilling. You and I've discussed it before. There's still no greater feeling than to get up out of this chair after I've just finished a song, a lyric, or a little demo, where I'm just trying to get kind of my vision for it down to where I can play it back and go, yeah, wow, this is a good song. This is a good riff. I can't wait to play this for Linda. I can't wait to play this for my manager. I can't wait for the band to hear this. I can't wait to go in the studio with Marty or with Nick Raskulinecz and go, hey, man, check this out. Just to see their eyes light up like, damn, boy, you've been busy. That's a good song. Thank you very much. Turn on those microphones. Let's go record it right now.
Yeah, you can't stop, man. So, you're committed to Skynyrd now for all good reasons, and you just reformed Brother Kane. I mean, what's the sort of state of affairs with that going to be? I mean, and you got like Buck Johnson's in that band, and I mean, he's still.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, dude.
Well, I think that makes me think of more conversations we've had, Bruce Andrews. The goal for me over the last decade or so was to work for myself and with my friends, whatever it takes. I want to work. I want to be the boss. Damon Johnson's the boss. Double Dragon Records, Double Dragon Music, my little entity. All right, man, that's it. It doesn't cover a lot of real estate. We're not looking at rental property or new property to purchase down on the Florida Panhandle. So we got a summer house. There's none of that, man. But I'm making better decisions for my art, for my music, for my work, for my career. And I've been able to surround myself with my friends. Thrilled that someone on the talent level of Buck Johnson would get excited to be a part of Brother Kane. My drummer, Jared Pope, who man, we've been making music together for 15 years now. That's more than twice as long as the original Brother Kane was together. And then to reconnect with Glenn Maxey, my old friend Glenn he was in he was in the quicksand with me back in those early 90s. So yeah, man. And I fuel off of having the confidence to like have an idea for a song or a run of tour dates. And I got the team around me now to help me realize those things. I was doing all that by myself, Bruce, for a long time. So it's great to have kind of some infrastructure now. And we're absolutely going to continue forward with Brother Kane. To the point we were talking about a minute ago, Bruce. I mean, man, we dropped 2 brand new songs back in October. They're 2 songs I'm as excited about as anything I've written in the last 20 years. Dude, nobody knows it. Nobody's listening to those songs. Because how do you tell the world, hey, there's 2 new Brother Kane songs? All I've got, man, is my Facebook page and my Instagram.
Well, and you're playing live. I mean, it's like I still purport that or think that the fact that you made a splash on New Year's Eve and all that's a ripple effect, and they actually find out what you got downstream that way. It's so I mean those songs will get over. I mean.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, just because few people are going to hear it, that's no reason not to do it. You just got it. If you build it, they will come. They just will. Somebody, there's some Brother Kane fans out there. There's not a ton of them, man, but Brother Kane fans are as passionate as any fan of any band. And there's, most of them right now, they have no idea that there's brand new music sitting right there on Spotify. All they got to do is hit play. But when they play it, they're going to go, damn, that song is badass.
That's right.
Listen to that band. Listen to Damon's, listen to these lyrics he's writing. So we're totally moving that forward. Skynyrd's the mothership right now. Skynyrd is the mothership.
Right.
So, I'm already starting to get a sense of what my entire 2024 looks like as it relates to Lynyrd Skynyrd. So my manager and I, the band, we can find some little pockets in there to go out and do some more dates, do a little run here, a little run there, get in the studio, take some new photos, whatever, man. It's just all kind of a process, and it's not easy, Bruce, necessarily, but it's very simple. It's very simple, and
that's profound.
It is that simplicity, man, that I wouldn't go back to being 34 right now.
Dude,
for all the money on the planet, man, just feels good to be in this skin. I'll be 60 years old in July, man. I just couldn't have imagined being this motivated and energized and inspired. If you'd have told me it was going to look like this when I was a kid, I wouldn't have believed it. How could you believe it?
60's a bridge too far when you're 15. So
yes,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I remember standing in line at the Turtles Records in Albertville, Alabama, buying that Thin Lizzy live album, Live and Dangerous. Just a kid, man, in nowhere, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna take that record home, and it changed my life. Now, if you'd have said to that kid, hey, buddy, in 2011, you're gonna join that band. You're gonna be the guitar player in that band that you just bought a record of. That's a fairy tale. That is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's no path. There's no path to get there.
And you just kept walking through the doors, man.
Yeah, just do it, man. Just love that music and keep swinging a hammer, Bruce Andrews. You know the drill.
Yeah, man. When we first started this conversation and I introduced the podcast, our motto at the Arts Council is imagine, create, and inspire. And that sounds very surface, but it's sequential. And I think you exemplify that. I mean, the opposite of imagination, creation, and inspiration might be stagnation, inflammation, and polarization. So I mean, if you keep that catalyst of imagination alive, you know, and you dedicate some time to it, I mean, it always produces some kind of creation. And of course, when you create something, it's inspirational. As you put it, I mean, if your goal is to inspire millions, you know, when you start, then that's probably not a laudable goal. But if your goal is to inspire yourself first, you know, by virtue of this creative fire, keeping it going. I mean, look at you, man. You don't look 60. you know,
oh, you're not looking super close, Bruce.
I mean, you do have your Redstone Arsenal glasses on there. You look very scientific, but
yes, I do, bro.
But you do not look 60. I mean, you're an inspiration to us all, bro. I appreciate you so much. I love you, man.
Oh, Bruce, thank you, buddy. Thank you. I was really thrilled when you reached out about wanting to do this, because I just know you. I know what you're made of. I know what inspires you and drives you. And, you know, before we wrap this thing up, I wanted to tell you, because I've said this to a few people recently, but I still think it all goes back to being in the 9th grade. I was still living in Monroeville. And maybe I knew that we were going to be moving, like as soon as school was out. My parents waited until we, you know, me and my 3 siblings, we finished our school, and then we moved up to DeKalb County that summer. So that would have been 1979. But in the spring, my little garage band, we played in the talent show at Monroe County Junior High School. And you remember what it was like back then, man. We played in the talent show, Bruce, and the school down there in Monroeville was very diverse, about 50-50, you know, half white kids, half black kids. And we all played together, did schoolwork together, played football together, marching band together, all of that stuff. So we said, hey, man, if we're going to be in this talent show, you get to play 2 songs. All right, well, we got to play something for everybody. So the first song we played was Cat Scratch Fever by Ted Nugent, who at that time was occupying a lot of time on our record player and little cassette tapes, whatever. The second song we played was Brick House by the Commodores. Brother, we brought that gymnasium to its knees, Bruce. Every kid in that school was on their feet. And I tell you that story, brother, to say that feeling, that moment, I've been chasing that same feeling the rest of my life. Like it was a drug. Thank God, man, I've never struggled with drugs and alcohol, but I know what it's like. I think I know what it's like. That feeling, man, that moment. And I'm still chasing it. And I'm just so grateful that I get to experience that similar feeling from time to time. And that I have an amazing family, you know, that supports me continuing to follow my bliss. I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate, man.
That's beautiful, man. You got to dig through the dirt and find them diamonds, and you found some, brother.
Amen, Bruce Andrews. Amen.
You found some, man. Well, great conversation, dude. I hope to see you back down in our neck of the woods sometime. I want to continue trying to book you, you know, trying to catch you in between your many endeavors. But I ain't giving up.
Thank you so much, brother. Please don't ever give up, man. You know how much I love you, and I love coming down here and playing for those amazing people. It's hometown for me, man. So, yeah, I look forward to the next time for sure, Bruce. Thank you so much.
We'll do it again, bro. Till we meet again. See you, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening to Imagine, Create, Inspire, the podcast. For more information on the Shelby County Arts Council, please visit www.shelbycountyartscouncil.com.